Hey everyone, welcome back to the Best Rivals podcast. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Julia.
And today we have two very special guests.
I'm Kaia Grobe, and I am in video production at Video City Productions in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I am a Gopher alumni, Go Gophers. I went to the U for 4 years, and I studied digital marketing and business.
And I'm Bridgette. I'm Kaia's sister, so also went to the University of Minnesota. I took a different path. I studied health services management, and I now work in healthcare and their strategy department.
So first we wanted to kind of touch on growing up for you guys. So we were curious to know if you guys grew up in Minnesota.
Yeah, we were born and raised in Minnesota, so if anyone can hear the extra O or the Minnesota, that's definitely very prevalent, especially when we get together and are starting to talk again. So it's a great place to be.
Yeah, we definitely have loved growing up in Minnesota. The winters are a little brutal, but everyone's super nice and genuine.
I didn't prepare myself well enough for the difference in the weather and how brutal the winter is in Minnesota. I didn't really think there would be much of a difference coming from Wisconsin because we're right next to each other, but it's brutal. You mentioned Kaia of the East Coast. We were also curious to know what drew you to moving to the East Coast and kind of if you could compare and contrast it to the Twin Cities. What's most different? What's most similar in your experience?
Yeah, so my boyfriend is in medical school right now. His name is Nick, and he was also a swimmer at the U, so that's how we met, and we've been dating since our freshman year of college. And so he's in medical school out in Pennsylvania, and he actually got placed in Philadelphia for his clinical rotations in the hospital system here. So we had been doing distance the 2 years after we graduated, and that was hard. A long distance relationship is hard, and he's probably my best friend behind Bridgette and just a good companion, and it was hard for us to be apart. So I felt like I had a good start to my professional career in Minnesota, so I was able to find a good job out here and then made the move out here with him. But yeah, that's the main reason why I'm out in Philly. And I don't think I would have decided to come to Philly had he not been placed here. But I do have to say, I really like it. Philadelphia's full of really rich history. Declaration of Independence was signed here. The Liberty Bell is here. So much to do. I think the people are great, and I love all my coworkers and all the people that I've met here. Kind of reminds me of St. Paul in a way, where it's a little bit older feeling. I feel like Minneapolis is very urban and modern. Philadelphia is more on the historic side with old brick buildings and cobblestone streets, and yeah, it's really cute. I've liked it over here a lot.
Well, Kai, I'm happy to hear that I'm before Nick as far as your best friend.
Of course. That's kind of a given. That's a requirement.
And Bridgette, you're still in Minnesota, right?
I am.
So what's it like having a long-distance sister relationship right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Kaia and I are super close, so I know the day she left, I cried my way into work. Pretty sure my managers knew I was crying too because they kind of left me alone through the day because I had told them my sister was moving to Philadelphia. And so it's been hard in that way, but I also think that it surprised me how well we've stayed in touch with each other. And I know we recently went on a trip last weekend and got to see each other, and it was just you picked it up right where we left it. So it felt like it hadn't been a whole year since I actually saw her in person. And thankfully there's FaceTime so I can actually see her, and I just text her and call her or send her a message on Instagram whenever I want, and she sometimes responds, sometimes she doesn't. But I mean, good and bad.
I think she likes the fact that she has her own bathroom though.
True, that's true.
So my sister actually goes to Minnesota Twin Cities, like you guys. So she's 2 years older than me. Obviously, I was in Madison. So I didn't think we'd call as much as we do now. Honestly, whenever in the middle of the night, honestly, or in the middle of the day, she'll call me randomly, and obviously I don't answer all the time, but I always make sure I call her back eventually at some point.
Yeah, I definitely say distance makes the heart grow fonder, where you appreciate the person that you're living long distance from more than you would if you live with them every single day. So I definitely think that's been a fact, and just being away from Bridgette and my mom and my dad and my dog is just I appreciate them so much more for who they are and what they are, and the support that they've given me throughout my life just makes you appreciate it a lot more, even though it's hard.
And Julia, I know you understand that too. So it's a unique story.
In my experience, so I'm actually a quadruplet. My siblings are all at different colleges than me. Like, none of them go to Minnesota. So it's really interesting. Like, we'll get on group FaceTimes, all 4 of us, and it's definitely hard to be away from them. But I totally agree with what you guys are saying, how you didn't expect to stay as like connected as you are.
Yeah, interesting we're talking about this is with siblings because I feel like everyone talks about long distance relationships as far as dating, but it comes in full circle with your siblings, your parents, even like close friends like Brianna and Julia. You guys are now in 2 separate cities, so
Yeah, but what a cool way to stay connected through this podcast. That's awesome.
And it gives like another reason to like visit different places.
right.
Like in the middle of the semester, I was like, "Hey mom, you want to go to Minnesota so we can visit all our friends in Minnesota?" And she was like, "Sure, I'll pick you up." And then we ended up all going, and I was like, and it was a fun weekend. So
You always have a place to stay.
yeah.
You guys slightly touched on being involved in swim and dive throughout college. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit more and kind of what inspired you to continue that through your college career?
Yeah. Kaia and I started swimming when we were probably around 5 or 6. A lot of that was due in part because our mom is a diving coach. And so we just were dragged to the pool with her no matter what. So we just were in the water all day long, every single day. And obviously we loved it. We loved being in the water. We loved doing it together and just kind of continued. And so my mom, coaching diving, decided to put us in the swim league that was also there. And so it was just easy for her because she's like, I'm here at the pool. My kids are doing their sport. And it just obviously grew from there. I would say that Kaia was more serious about it than I was initially. I wanted to quit swimming multiple times, many times, I will say. And I just wanted to play soccer because I was a big soccer player at that point. And then it just, I realized how much I cared being close to my sister and my mom, and I had way better friends and awesome coaches in my swimming career versus my soccer career. And so that's kind of what led me more down the line to go into swimming, and then joined the club team that my sister was swimming on. And it was, again, a lot of really awesome swimmers. And so it was intimidating for me to join, but they all were people who are very kind, but also knew how to push you. And so they definitely pushed me and made me realize, hey, like, you can actually swim in college. Like, I didn't really think that was a thing you could do. And so that kind of, just opens your doors to like, oh, okay, well, I can do this because I see other people doing this and how they did it. And that's kind of what led to that. And obviously, I loved swimming. I loved being active and wanted to continue it if I had the opportunity to do it in college. And so I'm grateful that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bridgette pretty much told the whole story, but I feel like our mom didn't want to pay for daycare, so she just brought us to the pool every day with her. And what else would you do than just goof around in the pool with your sister? We had the mermaid Barbies that we would play with, and we'd play with an underwater window. One of us would put on a show for the other one. So yeah, we were always in the water as kids, and eventually that just leads you to doing the sport. And I'm kind of opposite of Bridgette, where I loved swimming, and I knew that it was always going to be a part of my future, and I knew I was going to go to college for it. But I would say, like, when I went on my recruiting visit to visit Minnesota, and Bridgette was already on the team, I was actually thinking about going out to UCLA. Like, I wasn't thinking about staying in Minnesota. And I walked into the pool deck on my recruiting trip, and I saw Bridgette, like, kicking away on her kickboard, and she gave me a big smile. And I was like, you know what? I could come here. I would love to be with my sister still. And it's definitely swimming and diving and just like being around the water is definitely a family affair. And family is like one of the most important things to us. And so I think that's what really kept us really close. And it was all worth it in the end because we're still really close and we have lots of really good memories with swimming.
I'm just curious because like a not student athlete, like how you guys like handled your workload and stuff, because even for as being just a student, I was like struggling like first semester, even second semester with like just keeping track of everything.
Yeah, great question, Julia. I mean, it's hard. You definitely are kind of like, what do I do? Especially your freshman year. And I think this goes whether you're a student athlete or not, your freshman year is a transition. Learning how to do college and how to do your coursework is different from high school, and there's a lot more flexibility in your schedule, I would say, too, more so than high school, because high school you were in class from when you started 8 to 3 p.m. I think are the hours, and then for we went to practice and then did homework after that. And so now this was like we were practicing 2 times a day, and then you had class intermittent throughout that, and then how do you balance your time with homework and all of that stuff? And so it is just a different schedule and a different way of doing it, especially if you want to get involved in other things. I will say that as student athletes, we had tutors, and I would say our coaches definitely held us accountable. I remember our swim coach was talking to people like if they weren't having a good GPA or struggling in one course, they would know, and they would have conversations with those people and find a way to support them to do that better. So like, yes, we had a huge time commitment with your sport, but I would say you're also given support through that, which was helpful. I thought it was really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And just like the time commitment piece of it, it kind of puts pressure on you to like get the work done when it has to be done because you don't have any other time to do it. So I definitely would say like having that structure, the times where it's like swim practice, class, swim practice, and this is like the only time you have to do homework. It gives you like less freedom to be like goofing around and watching Netflix. And yeah, but like Bridgette said, I feel very lucky that we were very supported as student athletes with tutors and mental health services and other aspects of being a student athlete where we are very lucky to have and very appreciative of that. But yeah, it's definitely a commitment, but it teaches you how to be accountable and not procrastinate, even though I definitely still procrastinated and definitely reaped the consequences of that.
Further going off your career in college as student athletes and tying that to your transition to your professional careers now, which did you find more manageable? Did you find it easy to transition from that really packed schedule to just a different type of scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. It's definitely different. Say the like time commitment is almost similar because you're still like, giving yourself to something else for 8 hours a day. But I'd say the more challenging part is we were such high level athletes. Like we were able to work our way up and we were at the top of the food chain with swimming. And then once you're done, you retire, you hang up your goggles, your cleats, whatever sport you played. Then you enter the workforce where you're at the bottom of the food chain and you have very little like professional skills thus far just because you were so dedicated to being an athlete. And that was the most challenging part for me, is feeling like a complete beginner, like knowing nothing, not having any like real world skills. And I'd say that was the most challenging part, is like getting past that mental block of being like, okay, like I'm at the bottom, I have to learn all these skills, I have to like work my way up just the way I did with my sport.
That was well said, Kaia. And what I would add to that is it can be as small as, okay, how do I work out now? Where, you have your schedule set, 2 practices a day for 6 days a week, and you show up and your coach gives you the workout. But also, more importantly, it's an identity crisis. So like Kaia said, most of your life is dedicated to this sport. You're not thinking as much about what am I going to do beyond this, because so much time and effort is put towards that. And that's what you care about in the moment. And I talk to student athletes today about this too, as far as, how do I even get a job post collegiate career? Because I know a lot of my peers have done internships or other extracurriculars that are developing those skill sets that you need in your professional career. And so that's definitely hard to navigate through, and navigate and realizing you should be confident in yourself even though you don't have your sport anymore. And I think that can go for anyone, because now going into your professional career, like I know a lot of people, their identity and their full confidence is in their job and their professional career. And if you lose your job, you're down the tank in your confidence and mental health. And so it's something to kind of just like take a step back and like, yes, your professional career is important, your academic career is important, your sport's important, but also realize that you're much more of a person than that one thing that you're dedicating your life to.
Well, and you're much more than what you write on your resume too. I feel like people get so caught up on not having the right skills or like the right experiences on their resume when they're applying for a job. A lot of times people with soft skills, if you're like a hard worker and you're nice and easy to get along with, they're going to hire you versus the person that might have more skills than you. It's always important. And I do have to say an example. My boss complimented me on coming in and not knowing as much as my coworkers as far as the technical side of things in video production. I'd only been working in video production for 2 years as an intern at the University of Minnesota in the athletic department. So I didn't have as much skills, hard skills, but he did appreciate that I was coming in willing to learn. I'm a hard worker. Sure, I made mistakes, but I was able to learn right away. And I do think that is because I was an athlete for however many years. That's just something that's instilled in me, that I was taught as an athlete. You have to work hard. You have to always want to get better. You always have to learn. And that's exactly the skills that you need in your professional careers. You always have to be wanting to get better. CEOs of companies are still learning new things. The professional world is not the same as it was even 20 years ago. Think of it after the pandemic. I don't want to mention the pandemic because I know people are tired of hearing that. People are working in hybrid roles where there's more technology involved. Just like this podcast. Podcasts have lifted off the ground the past 2 years. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I just think it's wonderful how there's different ways of doing that, just through Zoom. You don't have to do it in person either.
I was going to touch on that, but you got it, about just kind of how you related bettering in your sport to moving up in your career, and how as a student athlete or just as an athlete in general, I feel you learn so much from sports, so many valuable lessons. Just for me, obviously, I'm not good enough at anything to do it in college, but throughout high school, I just feel I've learned so much from being a part of a team. I feel that's such an invaluable experience, team sports, growing up.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think it matters what level you make it to. I mean, and it doesn't matter if you're in sports or theater or band or DECA or whatever. All those skills, soft skills, translate into the real world. And young people need to realize that it's not a waste of time. It's important.
I echo what you said, Kaia, that it doesn't matter what level you make it to, you still develop those skills. And even in non-sports, and Kaia, you mentioned a few.
Me and Brianna used to play basketball together. We technically met in 8th grade through basketball. Didn't say a word to each other, I swear to God, the whole season. But I played up until junior year, and then senior year, my parents didn't want me to play because of COVID. So I feel I went through that part of transition where I had something after school every single day for the winter, something to do, something scheduled, to not having that at all, which I feel kind of put me into working out with Brianna still. We started working out every single day together. And then I think this was mentioned before, when we were working out together, we also had just the strength and conditioning coach who would just make workouts for us. So we never really had to think much into what are we going to do today. But then when we get to college, it's the workouts aren't made for you. So you have to start actually looking up and figuring out, what am I going to do today?
It's a
yeah,
tough
I know
transition.
exactly how you feel. Yeah.
That's awesome. You guys play basketball together.
Yeah,
See,
that's so
you
fun.
build lifelong friendships through the sports and activities you do.
I don't even know how it happened because I did not. Julia, I think I probably said 5 words to you max for the whole year. And then just snap of my fingers, and then we were besties. So I don't know what happened.
And I really think it was we started going to the summer workouts together as not even being in high school. So they were working out at the high school. We were 8th graders, I think, or we just graduated 8th grade, and we were the only 2 incoming freshmen at these workouts. And I think that's what kind of drew us together, because we were the only 2 out there grinding during the summer,
And with the open gyms, they mixed anyone could come, so it was all of the varsity boys and then me and Julia, and it was not
that.
And
Oh my
Every now and
gosh.
then there was a couple girls, but sometimes there wasn't. And I remember one day I was the only girl. I started playing basketball 8th grade year. Prior to that, I didn't have any experience, so I'm struggling to dribble the ball and do a layup. And I remember there was one exercise where we were just doing a layup line and stuff like that, and he was the head coach. I love him. He was really nice to me, but he was every layup we miss, we're doing a lap. And I said, I'm barely making a layup. And it got to the point where he was there were a couple of layups missed. It's okay. We're gonna move on. And I was thank you.
You're just sitting in the corner don't look
I
at
was
me.
those are all my layups. Sorry, guys.
I don't
That's
even
funny.
know what a layup is, so Julie, you got me.
Yeah, all of the land sports just go right over our heads.
Yeah.
It's all a learning experience. Having to train with guys, that was an experience. I learned something, I guess, and then builds life skills and life friendships.
It is.
Yeah.
It truly is.
One of the huge takeaways from that too was just not being afraid of failure, at least in my experience, because I know in the beginning, if I would mess up a tiny bit, because obviously sports are super mental, like mentally challenging as much as they are physically. So I definitely used to get in my head about every little mistake. But then I don't know if you guys have ever listened to the Nike Trained podcast, but it's like sports psychology. And I love that podcast so much. And I just got like really into sports psychology and all of that.
Yeah, sports psychology I think is truly amazing, and it's interesting as well. And I think there are skills in it that doesn't even have to be related to your sports, but it can go into other areas. And so we saw sports psychologists when we were at the U, and I wish I had started seeing them sooner because I think I would have benefited from even early on in my, probably more so than in college, just because you are just continuously thinking through. Like Brianna, you mentioned you just beat yourself up on one little thing that you missed, or for us that would be like, I missed my cut time by a tenth of a second, which is like your fingernail, and you just like when that happened, I just like lost it. You have to learn to manage that and realize, okay, yeah, I came up short, but I have to find a way to move through that and be better next time. And I mean, that's a skill that shows up every single day in just your professional career and life in general. But I would say, from sports psychology, I think the biggest thing that I learned from that is, and Julia and Brianna, I'm sure you felt this when you were right about to start a game, especially if it's a big game, your nerves are super high and you are thinking, at least what went through my head is like, I always got to be positive. I got to be thinking like, I'm amazing. I have to feel great. I have to think I'm going to go out there and this is going to be the best race of my life. And sometimes I didn't feel that way. Sometimes I was behind the blocks and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. This is the biggest meet of the season and I feel horrible. I feel super tired. My legs feel like jelly. I'm not confident in myself whatsoever. And so I think the biggest thing I learned is realizing that those negative thoughts are going to pop into your head no matter what. And what makes them stick in your head and what's bad and what affects you is if you glom onto that negative thought and you're constantly like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking this negative thought. And then I'm like, you're going to think another negative thought. And it's just like a downward spiral of things. And what you have to realize is you kind of be like, okay, hey, negative thought, I see you. You're there in my head, but I'm going to let you pass. And it's just going to go through your head. And you're not going to focus on it. And then another thought will pop into your head. So you can't really control what pops into your head. You just have to find a way to manage it. And the way to manage it is not focusing in so hard on those negative thoughts. I think that's a skill I've used in my sports, but also in my professional career too. You make mistakes. You make mistakes no matter what, and you just have to find a way through it. Or you're going to think negative thoughts no matter what, and you just kind of keep moving through it.
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of touch on that a little more, Brianna, I liked what you said about not having a fear of failure, because you're going to fail in your life. And it's just like being able to be like, okay, that happened. I failed. I made this mistake. Like I learned from that and I'm going to move on. You can't get stuck and not try, because then you won't learn anything and then you won't get anywhere.
Yeah, I wish I heard that speech when I was playing basketball, like a freshman, because I was definitely the like timid, scared to make a mistake, like shoot the ball. Honestly, that was actually it, because my coaches would be like, just shoot the ball, Julia. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'd rather pass it. I think that says something that like if I did make a mistake, I'd feel like down about that. I'm like, I'd always feel like I was like the weakest link of the team, I didn't belong there because like I started basketball so late compared to everyone who's been playing it for so long. So then I always felt like that. But as I like reflect back on it, I should have just done whatever I wanted to do and just like tried, learn from my mistakes and just like
Yeah, that's a good realization that you had too, and now that you're going to take that with you for the rest of your life, and you're going to hold on to that example of not wanting to try something because you might fail, and just like doing it anyways, failing and then learning from it.
Going back to the career aspect, could you guys tell us more about what it is you do in each of your roles?
Sure. So I studied health services management, which was a combination of hospital administration and public health. For me, when I was in my freshman year and thinking about like, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to major in? Which seems like the hardest question to answer at that time of your life. For me, I wanted to be a doctor, but I also really loved of business. And then all of a sudden my academic advisor was like, well, there's this new major at the U of M called Health Services Management. Did that, graduated, and then now I work at Unite Health Group. And so I today work in strategy, and it's a lot of research and analyzing just industry trends, analyzing competitor trends, understanding what that means for our business, and then what's the path we want to follow forward. Like, who do we want to be in this future state? Because things are always going to be changing. I'm definitely still learning a lot, I would say, but I love it. It stretches me and challenges me in the best way possible.
Well, and I'm just going to brag about Bridgette a little bit. She's a freaking rock star in her position and what she's doing. And she's going to be somebody who changes the healthcare industry in the future for the better. So I just wanted to say that.
I think you have too much faith in me, Kaia. I really do.
I think you can do amazing things. I'm not
Thank you.
tearing up right now. A little bit tearing up. Bridget and I are complete opposites in terms of what we're interested in. For my position at Video City Productions, I'm a shooter and an editor, so I go out to shoots and I'm a camera operator. I also have been running our social media a little bit too. We work with corporate mostly and nonprofits, and we do events. Yeah, I love it. I see a lot of variety of things in my position just because we get to work with a ton of different clients. Definitely different from my internship that I had with the U, because I was just working in athletics, so I mainly just did sports, everything related to the athletic department, which was amazing. I loved it. It was such a great starting off point.
And I'm going to take a chance to brag about Kaia. Kaia has a very clever creativity about her. You should definitely check out her portfolio, which you can find on her Instagram page, right, Kaia?
No, I took it down because I haven't really been putting much stuff up there. So
Put it back
that's another one of my procrastination that I need to get on. Yeah, I took it down because I was like, oh, it's kind of not updated, and I have a job now, so. But I should have it up there.
Yeah, you should put it back up there. And also for the people listening to the podcast, you probably realize Kaia sounds 10 times better than I do because she has a very fancy microphone currently right now. And I didn't come prepared.
Yeah, and you're breathing into your mic to hear all of the laugh.
Now I'm self-conscious about my breathing.
You should be.
This is exactly how I argue with my sister, or joke with my sister.
Isn't it great though?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I always make fun of Bridget. She doesn't know how to give it back to me, but that's the best part of our relationship.
So, what has been the most rewarding part of your career so far, but then also where do you see your careers progressing? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, I'd say the most rewarding part of the job that I currently have is just being able to be a small part of making an impact in the Philadelphia region. We work with a program called Share Food Program. They have an effort and a mission to feed as many people in Philadelphia as they can, and they have this whole warehouse and this whole system where they're helping people in Philadelphia, making sure they're getting good nutrients, good food. It's such a simple part of our life that we take for granted. You just being able to promote their mission through video makes all the work worthwhile in the end. And now on a different note, I also just being able to collaborate with a client, them having all these amazing ideas, and then actually being able to execute it and give it back to them, and they're just blown away with the result. But I definitely would say the most rewarding part is just making an impact through digital content. And that's what you guys are doing too. I was thinking about that when I was sitting down and preparing for this, is you're helping lots of young people in college and young people in general relate to all of these stories, knowing that you guys don't always have to have it figured out. Nobody ever has it figured out in their life. So you kind of have to let that go in your mind. That was hard for me to take on. What am I going to do with my life? What's my purpose? Just take that first step. Just go.
That was profound, Kaia. Hard to go off of.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic.
I'm not a sarcastic person. And so, Julia, this is a really good question. I think this question can also be worded as what do you want to do when you grow up? One person gave me a really good piece of advice is you have your plan, but write it in pencil so that when plans change, because they will, you can erase it and readjust it. For me, it's two different things. For me, my career always challenges me and gives me purpose in that way, as far as me wanting to achieve the goals I want, me always learning something new because I love learning. And then the second part of it, besides that of challenging part, mental stimulation, and then also learning something new, the second part is it's impactful work. And so Kai just told a really great story about what she's doing to impact the community she's in. Brianna and Julia, you guys are impacting your community creating this podcast
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way. And so for me, that would be more closely related to, how do we make healthcare easier to access for people who can't access it? How do we make it more affordable? Healthcare is really complex. So for me, that work is impactful because we're trying to make the healthcare system better. And obviously I'm not going to do it alone. Like, it's going to be a lot of people doing that. But if I can say that I'm a part of that work, at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, you did good today, Bridgette. I want to remain in healthcare. Right now, I would say I'm more an individual contributor. One day I would love to be a leader and like helping coach people underneath me, because I personally have been blessed with amazing leaders who have taken the time to just coach me. Later on, I would love to be able to give that back, as far as for me, everyone has their own different definition of leadership. To me, leadership is coaching and bringing people up with you. And so I would love to have the opportunity to do that in my whatever position I end up being in.
You would be good at that.
Thanks, Kaia.
I've never asked you that question before, so I didn't know that's where you wanted to go. I guess I'll answer that part of the question too, because I forgot. I'm just kind of taking steps forward and following the path that I like, and I'm learning so many different avenues that I can take within digital content production, trying out those things and seeing what I like. I don't have this big idea of what I want to be. I know I want to stay in content creation, and I know I want to keep making an impact that way. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like, and that's okay. I do have one more thing that I just want to leave the advice here. My simple advice is just to start somewhere. When I graduated school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was so paralyzed by the fact that I didn't have this idea of my big purpose, and I didn't know where to start. And it's you don't have to know where to start. Just say yes to opportunities, make the ask, and just go for it. You're not going to get anywhere thinking about, oh, I may not be good at that, I may not be good at this. It's just start, and you'll learn, and you'll go from there, and that's it. Just start.
And in a word of advice as well, I think what Kaia said is amazing, and that's a great piece of advice. But what I will say is you do waste time trying to compare yourself to others. And so I'm not saying don't set your standards high. For example, if there's someone with a career that you want to have one day, ask them how they did it, learn about it, but then find your own path there. You can look to others to set your goals, but when it comes to a point where it's negatively affecting you, stop comparing yourself to them. Really live your own path, because everyone's path is different. I've never heard one single career path that's the same. So just follow your own personal path and everything will work out.
Well, you can find me on Instagram, just Kaia Grobe, KAIAGROBE, and I may or may not put my portfolio in my bio depending on my procrastination. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kaia Grobe. I have a Twitter, but I'm not really active, and I have TikTok, but I'm not really active. I just like to laugh at funny videos. And I send them to Bridgette. She usually doesn't respond, so she's not into the TikTok game.
I send you reels on Instagram.
Yeah, my mom
No.
watches Instagram reels.
I watch Instagram Reels.
Thank you, Brianna.
I deleted TikTok in August because I was like, this is not good for me to be spending all this time on this. And then I just go on Instagram Reels. So I'm the same way with my sister. She'll send me TikToks and I send her Instagram Reels.
Perfect.
And all my siblings bully me for it. They're like, why are you on Instagram Reels? Just get TikTok.
I bully my mom for it. She's just watching these little kids snowboard. And now she's already got this plan. She's like, Julia, once you have children or any of your siblings, I'm going to put them in snowboarding lessons. And then I asked my mom, I'm like, do you know how to snowboard? She's like, no, but your children will. And I was like, okay.
I see the
Whatever you
kid,
say, Mom.
when they mic up the little kid, or the tiny kid who snowboards when they mic him up, it's so cute.
So cute. Yeah, I've
That's
seen that
so
one
cute.
before.
Brianna, you can send those to my mom.
Yeah, those are so cute. We used to, I did a series with the women's hockey team at Minnesota. We mic'd up all the seniors, and it was just during one of their practice, and it's the funniest thing. I have my headphones on while I'm filming them. Things that they say, I'm like, okay, I can't put that in the video because that's not very appropriate, but it was hilarious. It was very entertaining.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to chat with us.
Thank you for having us. We feel honored you even reached out and wanted to have us on your podcast. So
I'll have to echo that too. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate the invite.
Go Badgers.
hey.
Oh. I don't think you want to say that in this room right right now, Julia.
You got a lot of Gophers here.
Go Gophers.
On that note, we're wrapping up the podcast. So thanks to everyone who listened. If you want to listen to more of our past episodes, you can find us on YouTube, the Best Rivals Podcast, and then also on Instagram at best.rivals.
Go Gophers, go Gophers.